and welcome to Section 5. We're going to cover sedimentary structures. So first things first, they may not seem to be the most exciting thing to talk about, look at, read about, work with, but sedimentary rocks do a fantastic job of telling information about the environment where they were deposited. They give a lot of information as to the story of what was going on the Earth at a certain place at a certain time. For example, they contain, by and large, most every fossil is going to be in sedimentary rocks. So you see something like this, it really tells you a lot of information about the sort of environment, about what might have been going on at a certain place a long time ago. They also contain all sorts of sedimentary structures, things which might tell a person about the processes that were going on, and even more about the environment and the story of what was happening there at the time. We're going to talk about a couple sedimentary structures: ripple marks, mud cracks, tracks, cross bedding, and graded bedding. So what are these? Ripple marks. So imagine a shallow water environment. We have water moving across it, right? A lake shore, a stream edge. And what we're going to see recorded are these little ripples. And what these would tell somebody, a geologist or an informed person, is that the environment very likely looked something like this. Ripples moving, we have a fluid, we have water moving across a somewhat a shallow bed here. Not necessarily a lot of depth to this, to where ripples might be preserved on the surface. We can also see mud cracks. So you imagine like a playa, or a desert, any sort of moist area that dries very, very quickly. We see these preserved, little mud cracks like this, places where it has dried out and formed these little polygons, and then these get filled in and preserved. So if somebody comes upon this, or out hiking, you see something that looks like this, you say, well, now I know a little bit about the environment, what was going on here at a certain time when the rock was deposited. You see this with tracks as well. You imagine that you are a dinosaur, you're walking through a little bit of mud, a little bit of shallow water and mud underneath, something like this. Leave behind these tracks, which are then preserved. And actually, if you look here, you can see another little feature preserved as well. And this one, a little bit of ripple marks there. You have something called cross-bedding. So the process of how this one forms is a little bit more detailed than we're going to have to worry about. But this is what cross-bedding looks like. There's going to be some environment where fluid, so water or air, is moving over material which is not perfectly solid and compacted and mobile. It's water moving in a stream over some sort of material which is mobile and is affected by the movements of the waters. You see this as well in tidal zones. So imagine everything that's in between high tide and low tide at the beach. And you can also see these with sand dunes. You can have wind-blown deposits that look like this with cross bedding. And here we have one that's normal bedding here just for comparison. So normal beds, cross beds. So these are like diagonally, they're cutting across each other. I believe that's actually Zion National Park for the last one. Anyway, graded bedding is another feature whenever we have large amounts of sediment that settle quickly. You see this. So if you look closely at this one, you might say, okay, well, I notice we have big chunks down here and then sort of medium chunks here in the middle, and then the smaller stuff as we go up. You can see with this one as well. So bigger chunks at the bottom, medium stuff, and then sort of the finer stuff at the top. For this one, the easiest way to think about it, you imagine you have a bucket that has all this different size material in it, and you dump it into the water. You dump a whole lot of the stuff, this huge bucket with all different kinds of sediment into the water. Well, this stuff, the larger stuff, is going to sink very, very quickly. The other stuff is going to take a little while. I think of like a feather making its way down. It's going to take a little bit longer to get to the bottom. And so you see this pattern where sediment which has settled very, very quickly or moved very, very quickly has the larger rocks, larger rock fragments at the bottom, and the smaller material at the top. Going back to our rock cycle, we have now covered everything here. So weathering, transportation, deposition, lithification, and everything to do with sedimentary rocks. Next unit, we will cover all of the fun stuff going down here. We start doing some rock cooking. What are the big ideas for the section? What do you need to pay attention to? Weathering and erosion. Are these the same? What do these mean? Why are they important? Who cares? Mechanical and chemical weathering. So we want to know not just the methods, the processes on these, but also the environments. So we had the game we played trying to guess what sort of weathering types you would see in different environments, right? Hot, cold, wet, dry. Very, very important stuff there. You should know something about the depositional environments, which we talked about in section 3. What sort of sediments might be deposited where and why on land and in the sea, where is most sediment deposited. And finally, what sort of sedimentary rocks are there, different types, maybe examples of each, as well as structures and what these structures might mean. Thanks.